This is step number 1. In this episode, I am going to address 5 critical steps to take before retiring. This is the first of the 5 steps. Get ready. You're going to see something that you're probably not expecting. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for more than 4.5 decades. And I've helped many people prepare for retirement by optimizing their assets and minimizing taxes. But a lot of times people get confused when I start talking about the most important assets on the family balance sheet. So what I did for years is I conducted a 5.5-hour course called Retire by Design. And we had thousands of people attend this course, and then I recorded it online. And I'm going to show you how you can have access to the online version, or how you can learn this by reading, listening, or watching. But I'm going to give you a few snippets, a few of the most critical points in this 5.5-hour course, Retire by Design, and then you can decide if you would like to engage and learn more. So here we go, get ready. When you are about to go on a trip somewhere for the very first time, what's the most important piece of information you need to know? Most people blurt out, well, where you're going or how to get there. Nope. When using a GPS, it uses triangulation. And it does that by honing in on 3 out of about 32 satellites that orbit this Earth for that very purpose. Once it has clarity on where you are at, within 2 square feet on this globe, then you program in where you're wanting to go, and it will show you all kinds of ways to get to your desired destination. The freeway, the scenic way, the byway, and also where to refuel your car or yourself en route. Now, when people ask me, Doug, what is it that you like to do? I enthusiastically respond, I like to be the OnStar button on people's dashboard of life. You see, I like to help people get extremely clear on where they are at in every area or dimension of their life, and then get clarity on where they're wanting to go. Then the path to get to their desired destination can be easily mapped out. Sort of how to live the life they want to lead. Now, a very good friend of mine, strategic coach Dan Sullivan, told me one day, all progress begins by telling the truth. And I would add, to yourself. Sometimes the hardest person to tell the truth to is yourself. As a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for more than 4.5 decades, I can usually look at somebody's tax return or 6 numbers on a financial statement, and within 2 minutes, I can tell where they are at financially, how much of a fortune they're missing out on, what they know and what they obviously don't know, how long their money is going to last. The fact of the matter is, you don't know what you don't know because you can't be aware of something you're not aware of. Now, you can also tell where somebody's at by where they're at physically. We make choices in our life regarding exercise or lack of exercise, nutrition or lack of nutrition that puts our bodies not at ease, what we call dis-ease, that all too often results in what my good friend Tony Escobar calls death by lethal ingestion, maybe because of weapons of mass consumption, okay? But you can also tell where somebody's at by where they're at emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, but all progress begins by telling the truth. Once you have clarity on where you are at in all dimensions of your life, and then get clarity on where you wanted to go, then the path to get to your desired destination can be easily mapped out. Usually in these Retire by Design events, I pass out a scorecard on an 11 by 17 sheet of paper, and the first 5 areas or principles that I teach in 5.5 hours have to do with money, liquidity, safety, rate of return, tax advantages, a cash generator, but this is spelled K-A-S-H. I'll show you what that means here in a moment. But then these 5 talk about the other 2 dimensions of what I call authentic wealth, abundance versus scarcity mindsets. Three-dimensional approach, like a three-legged stool, a responsibility and accountability, equal opportunity instead of equal distribution, and a values and vision document. This is what I would call an ethical will. So let me share with you what I mean by three dimensions. There are three dimensions of what I call authentic wealth. When we say the word assets, what kinds of things do most people think of first when we say the word assets? Most people think of such things as your house, other real estate, your cash, your stocks, your bonds, and so forth, but those are just material possessions, aren't they? They're just things. When I ask people, what are the most important assets that you value, that you cherish, that you possess on this earth? Now people say family. It's usually their family, their relationships, their health. These are human assets. They involve people. I would also call these the foundational assets for abundant living. It would also include such things as your heritage, your charitable foundations, your talents, your unique abilities, and so forth. Now, there's a third dimension of authentic wealth that involves the wisdom that we gain throughout our life. Now, wisdom is a product of knowledge times what? Experiences. Just the good ones? I've actually learned more from my bad experiences in life. It would also include your formal education, your reputation, methods, systems, traditions, alliances, ideas, and skills. These are the three dimensions of authentic wealth, like a three-legged stool. Now, whenever I ask anybody, if you had to let go of one of these three categories of assets, financial, foundational, or intellectual, but you could keep the other two, not only could you keep the other two, but you could transfer them into future generations. But you had to let go of one, start over. You had to bankrupt one of these three categories of assets and start all over. Which one would you let go of? Now, abundant-minded people immediately say, well, the money. Why would you let go of the money? Because you can rebuild that category using the other two. Most religions on earth believe we come to this life possessing these assets to one degree or another. If you believe in a life after this one, these are the ones you return to your maker and report on. Have you ever figured out how to take the money with you when you die? Yeah, there's no luggage racks on hearses, as the song says. In fact, two affluent guys died and went to the pearly gates. One turned to the other and said, man, how much did you leave behind? The other one said, all of it. Yeah, you don't take it with you. Isn't it interesting that traditional estate and financial planning in this country seems to focus on the least important category on the family balance sheet? The money. See, at three-dimensional wealth, we focus on all three dimensions. It's a three-legged stool, and I find that too many people are wobbling on one leg. Money, 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 and they accumulate their wealth at the expense of their health. Later in life, they're spending all their wealth trying to regain their health. That's sort of stupid. Or they accumulate their financial wealth at the expense of relationships with their spouse, their kids, their grandkids, or their God. This is why at three-dimensional wealth, we believe it's more important that values are understood before the assets are valued. So in this Retire by Design course, we actually talk about all three dimensions, these legacy dimensions, intellectual and foundational. I show you how to leave behind the knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. That spells the acronym CASH. That's more important than leaving behind a bunch of money. And so you want to make sure you're empowering your kids. If you're going to be playing in a golf tournament, okay, and you had the choice of using a professional golfer like Phil Mickelson's swing, or you could use his clubs, what would you choose? Well, I'd rather have his swing, not the clubs. Well, I've noticed that most financial advisors focus on the golf clubs or the commodity. It's not in a commodity, it's in the strategy. They say, oh, buy this stock or bond or mutual fund or gold or silver. It's not in the commodity, it's in the strategy. I've noticed that many estate planning attorneys seem to focus on dividing up the golf clubs and the trophies among your kids and grandkids when you die. I'd rather leave behind how to fish to my kids and grandkids than dumping a bunch of fish in their lap. I want them to be self-reliant, to never be unemployed, because unemployment is a mental condition, not a physical condition. Security is in the individual, not in somebody giving you a job. So that's why at three-dimensional wealth, we focus on all three dimensions. So in this course, we will show you that equal distribution is not the fairest way to treat those you care about, because that's a false belief pattern. You go to most estate planning attorneys, and the first question they ask you is, well, how many kids have you got? Because what are they going to start doing with your trust? When you die, they're going to chunk, 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 chunk. And sometimes they kill the goose laying the golden eggs, your business or whatever, because the trust says you got to divide it up and dump it in your kids' laps, and it ruins half of the kids in this country. That's what fosters entitlement mentality. When do I get my share? No, equal opportunities are better than equal distribution. Sometimes people go, wait, see, because I say most estate planning, it's focused on 4 Ds. They divide it up, they defer thinking they're saving tax, it gets distributed and dumped on ill-prepared heirs, and then it dissipates. Wealth is transferred without a system that fosters responsibility and accountability. We focus on 4 Ps that I'll show you because Abraham Lincoln said the worst thing you can do for those you love is the things they can do for themselves. Robert Frost said every affluent father wishes he knew how to give his sons the hardships that made him rich. But we don't want to see our kids suffer, and we think we're helping them. You cannot believe how many successful people would come and visit me, and they would tell me their story and how they went from rags to riches, and I grew up after the Great Depression. My kids will never have to work as hard as I did. 10, 20, 30 years later, they come back in, and this is after their adult children moved back home several times, and I say, how's it going? And they go, Doug, I don't know what's going on. My kids don't even know how to work. And I would say, well, maybe you stole that from them. Maybe in your effort to take that off of them, what made a man out of you, you stole that from them. And so we want to have equal opportunities, not equal distribution, because there's nothing more unequal than the equal distribution to unequals. People go, what? Let me just say it this way. Our Creator does not give equal distribution of health to all of us, regardless of how some of us may choose to abuse our bodies. Our Creator gives us equal opportunities, not equal distribution. It's based upon being responsible and accountable. Does that make sense? So you live by the governing principle of equal opportunities, not equal distribution. If this is resonating with you, feel free to share this video with other people who you can tell are maybe trapped in this entitlement cycle that I'm talking about. And this is the first of 5 critical steps that I think everybody ought to take before retiring. So subscribe to this channel and stay with me here, and I'll show you how to get a copy of my most recent book about this topic called Entitlement Abolition. So folks, I think it's more important you leave behind the knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits, this cash, because this is the swing instead of dumping a bunch of golf clubs on your kids and grandkids. This will help you free those you care about from being trapped in this entitlement when all this abundance is right here within reach, and you can free them from that trap, and everybody starts experience abundance, and abundance breeds abundance, and you will learn how and why as you read the book, or if you attend or you take the online course 5.5 hours, and I can show you how to get it for free. So folks, you can get a copy of Entitlement Abolition by going to entitlementabolitionbook.com. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that. This is a 200-page book that talks about these very issues. And I want to gift you a copy of that. But also, if you would like this 38-page workbook on Retire by Design, when you go in and do that, you'll be able to go through what is called an 8-step transformation process when you engage with 3-dimensional wealth. And when you do that, then you'll be able to understand how to diversify your money in these rules of governance so that you can have money in all 4 of these buckets that I talk about in other episodes. And you can do that by having this 38-page workbook, and you can claim this and get the video and take the class online for Retire by Design. This is the first step of 5. I would encourage you to watch the next episode, step number 2.